from zero to about $8,000 per month in about 60 days. So, the reason why this is really cool is because sometimes what happens is a lot of people are close to reaching their goals in their business. It's just they don't have the key set of skill sets that are needed to make it work. So, what I mean by that is number one is your pricing. Next is really understanding a predictable source of leads. Number three is going to be sales. Before we go any further, if you want some help growing your business, go ahead and click the link inside the description, either above or below the video, to book a call with myself to see if I can help you inside of one of our training programs. And also, in order for me to keep doing these videos, I want to kind of know that they're making impact. One way I can know if they're making an impact is by seeing engagement. So I always get really excited whenever I see people like comment or like or share, because it's like, okay, people are seeing this, and I know that if one person sees it, if I just help out one person, that's really all I really do these videos for. Because I know, like, if this is me back in 2015 when I started my accounting and bookkeeping business, like that would have been like killer for me. But there wasn't really people doing that back at that time. So in order to help this video get seen by more people and help me reach my goal of helping people out, go ahead and help me by typing in. If you're watching live, type in hashtag Team Live, and I'll make it more interactive. I'll know people are here. If you're watching this thing on a replay, type in hashtag Team Replay, and I will actually make it a little bit easier for you guys to get some value out of this as well. I might even leave a gift for people who are watching the replay, because I know it's kind of hard when you're working your job. Please set the frame rate. Sorry, I have like this weird thing on Facebook. So they've kind of switched up Facebook to being where you can't use Restream, which is like a third party like program. What is this? Show link during this. Yeah, so it makes it very hard for me to kind of like to see like what's kind of going on and like what's there, because it's like it's just different than what I'm used to. So it's like always like a learning experience when it comes to these streams on Facebook. So attacking this thing out. So number one, first things first, you need to get your price down correct. Now, when it comes to doing your pricing, the reason why this is important is because it makes everything else easier. Okay? So, for example, if you have to go and I was talking to this gentleman last week, and he's at about $6,000 per month, but all of his clients on average are about $200 per month. That means he has 30 clients, right? And he's running his business full time. He's making $6,000 a month. That's not bad, right? But in order for him to get to about $10,000 per month divided by 200, that means he's going to need 50 clients in order to do that. That is a lot. That can be a lot to kind of go. And like if your goal is just to go and like replace your income and like, get up to like six figures and like you're doing everything on your own, okay, cool. That's not a problem. But an easier route is just to go and get clients that want to pay you more. So for example, let's say that if you just had, we'll say 3 clients that pay you about $2,000 per month each, that's already $6,000 right there. It only would have taken you probably would have taken you 4 to 5 consultation calls, because if you're doing well, and like we'll talk about sales in a minute, people are actually going to want to work with you, right? And as long as as long as you can like really build the value into like why you're pricing things the way you are, then people are generally likely to want to work with you if you're speaking to the right business owners, right? So it is kind of a match between, you have to have the right pricing, you have to be able to convey the value in your consultation calls, and you have to have like a really good lead source to get the right kind of people on the call, right? Because oftentimes if someone's paying you $200 a month, it means they either don't necessarily value your service, or they just aren't really the size business that can really sustain paying more. So for example, if you're talking to someone and they're doing about $100,000 per year, right, it might be really hard for them to support paying $1,000 a month. Let me put in this perspective. So a lot of us as accountants and bookkeepers, we kind of have a weird false understanding of how profitable a business is, because when you're doing a professional services business like a bookkeeping business where the margin on it is so high, right? You can have like 95% profit margins if you're doing all this stuff on your own, you're not using any advertisement, and you don't really have any other expenses, right? But a lot of businesses are not like that. I remember one time my uncle was talking about like for healthcare, because he likes doing the healthcare space. He's talking about some of their profit margins would be like between 5 to like 10% max. Now If you're doing super high revenue, that's great. But if a company's only doing $100,000 a year, and they, for lack of better words, are doing we'll say 10% margins, that's not very good. It means the net profit's only $10,000 off $100,000, right? So let's say that they're doing a little bit better. They're 30% margins. If they are at 30% margin on $100,000 per year, and that's before taxes, they're probably bringing in $30,000 EBITDA. Okay, it's hard for them to pay $12,000. It's $1,000 a month, so 1,000 times 12 is $12,000. That's almost 50% of the take home would be going straight to you. It just doesn't. It's hard for them to do that, right? And you could, if your sales skills are amazing, do that. But I don't know if I'd feel comfortable taking that much of a percentage from someone, right? Because a lot of people they might need that money to live, right? So it all has to kind of match up correctly in order for you to consistently go and get clients at the size with which you're talking about and the size with which you're looking to go to. So first things first is pricing. Now, a lot of times what happens too is that some people think that the only clients that are going to be able to pay them between $500 to $5,000 per month for bookkeeping or monthly accounting services are these giant behemoth corporations. And that's not necessarily true, right? Really, companies, as long as the company is over $500,000 to about $5 million, that's kind of a sweet spot with which someone can afford to pay that, and it won't hurt them. If someone's doing about $500,000 per year, they're probably comfortable paying between $500 to maybe about $1,500 per month for the service, depending on the scope of work, the profitability, and how valuable that service is for their industry. Because not to say that accounting and bookkeeping is not valuable, but there are certain industries where accounting is a make or break kind of thing for them, versus other ones kind of a luxury nice to have. An example would be construction. Now bookkeeping is very important in construction, especially when it comes to job costing and bidding and really understanding all their numbers, because they in a lot of cases can be a lower profit margin kind of business. So the fact that if they can really master their numbers and know exactly what's going out versus what's coming in, they can really expand that profit margin. That means so much to them, especially if the jobs they get can be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. We one time had I had a student in our program. She had a client who was a construction person. He had a $10 million project, right? He paid her $4,000 a month to basically just be his virtual CFO, which basically all it was just talking, because he basically had his business figured out. He just wanted more of a sounding board to understand if he was making a good decision or a bad decision. And for some people, well, I don't want to talk to people. It's okay, cool, whatever. You don't have to talk to people. But in that case, getting paid $4,000 a month to talk to someone for an hour a week for I think it was by every 2 weeks they would speak for an hour, right? And then she would just do the books outside of that, right? So it's just okay, for me that's worth $44,000. I don't know about you, but for me it is. Okay, so it all comes down to who are you actually targeting. The next thing it comes down to is your communication of value. So a lot of people undercomplicate it or they overcomplicate it. So when I say undercomplicate it, if you're just getting started and you've never collected $1 from someone, you do not want to wing this. Don't wing it, okay? You want to be prepared, you want to do your best, you want to try your hardest, okay? Do not be one of those people that says, oh, sales is easy, I can just do it. These business owners will sniff out that you don't know what you're doing or you're not prepared. Even if you do have good skills in accounting and bookkeeping, if you're not prepared, they will actually take that trait and they will kind of future pace what it's going to be like to work with you. So always have a process. Even if your process is not amazing, try and have some sort of process. I like to use scripts and flows on my consultation calls, so I know exactly where the call is going to be going, right? So for this student, for example, for him, he really had to learn how to explain the value that he was going to be providing. Because a lot of the clients that came to him, even though they were doing really high revenue, they were not very, very, what I call sophisticated. So they were actually succeeding in spite of themselves. They'd be in a really high growth industry, for example, he had a solar company that came to him. And they did not really understand finances. All they knew was they understand sales, and they can go get a team of people, put them inside of a van, go send them down to a hot area in Arizona, and have them go and prospect for an entire day. And suddenly they're making 10 sales at $10,000 a piece per day. right? That's all they know about business. That's all they know about business. So how do you convince someone like that who has the money but doesn't understand why they need your service to move forward? And that's what having a good flow kind of does and kind of works. Now, the other extreme of not having anything is having too much. So I say the phrase like sales script. I really mean more of a sales flow, a set of questions that you need to take someone down in order to make sure that their mindset's in the right spot, and you can see where are those red flags that the person might have that is a misconception about what your service actually is or does that you need to go and take care of before the end of the call. Or before like the person is going to actually sign up with you. If you don't do it within the call, okay, you can maybe follow up via email to try and handle those. But before the person is ready to make the payment, you need to make sure that you have that as fixed and as like just clear as possible. Okay. Now we have other videos on our YouTube channel that breaks down like what are the main, like we call it the 7 beliefs, okay? So there's basically 7 beliefs that you need to have an understanding of in order to make sure that people are actually going to want to work with you, okay? So a couple of those beliefs, I'm not going to go into all 7, but a couple of the beliefs are really what's their partner thing. So let's say that they have a business partner, or they might have a spouse, or they might have a board. Are they able to make the decision without those people's input, or do they need to have that person's input? Okay, another one is going to be value. So what is the value they kind of see on accounting and bookkeeping? They kind of think that you're more of like an admin, or they kind of see you as a growth partner. Okay, that's going to be very important to know. Time. How much time do they think it's going to take for your service? Do they feel like it's going to take a lot of time in onboarding? They don't feel like they have the time to do that. Okay, that's going to like cause them either to want to work with you or not want to work with you. Next thing is going to be price. Okay, so we're going to talk about logistical price. Can they actually afford it? Or if they can afford it, are they afraid that something's going to change in their financial situation that will cause them not to be able to afford it? Okay, that's important as well too, because they feel that even though they have the money, if they feel that something weird is going to come, like maybe like a recession or whatever, they might not be as willing to spend that money with you. So you have to know what their beliefs are there. We also have to know, like, have they maybe dealt with someone in the past, like a bookkeeper or an accountant who maybe messed up their books or who got them in trouble with the IRS. Like you have to know that too, because that's going to cause them, if you remind them of that other person, they might not go with you. Or if they don't understand, or they're just like maybe petrified, they might not move forward with anybody. And you have to know that before the person is willing to actually get started working with you. So we always have to know that right at the top of our heads. We just know. We just know. And that's going to make your consultation calls a lot easier, especially when you're charging a higher price point. Like if you're just charging like, we'll say like $200 a month, yeah, okay, cool. Almost anyone's going to work with you. Almost anyone. Right? Almost anyone. You don't really need sales skills for that. But when you start talking about 750, 900, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, right? You generally need to have more of a process because those are the type of companies that are okay, let me give you an example. If you ever go on a website like Upwork or Thumbtack, right? The business owners will, in some case, like especially on Thumbtack, the business owners will say how much revenue they're doing. And the companies that say they're doing between 100 to 300K a year in revenue, they really don't have that many proposals like, or people like who are like applying for those positions. Versus if you see someone, as soon as they put $1 million, it has 10, 15, 20, 40, 60,000 people applying for it. Right? So the higher you're going to be charging, generally the higher the quality company, the more competition you're going to have. And it's not that having a lot of competition is bad, it's just if you're just winging it and you don't seem like you're professional, the business owner is going to have 20, 30, 40 people they are comparing your presentation to, and you know, if it's one of the worst, you're not going to get the position. So you have to be as polished as possible and have a good process in place so that even though like, you don't have to be a master at sales, the business owner just needs to feel that you are solid. You're not going to disappear on them. That you're dependable. That you're reliable. That you prepare for these meetings before you get on the phone with them. Right? They just want to just feel solid. They need to know that you have their back. And as long as you're able to do that, then they're willing to work with you at those higher price points. And you can beat the competition pretty fairly easily. Like, beating competition is not hard. You have to be just a little bit better than everybody else, and you have to be able to differentiate yourself more than everybody else. The final thing you need is you just need to have a very good source of leads. Now, for me, whenever I'm teaching people to start their business, really what I'm thinking about is what is your close rate? So closure is what percentage of people that get on a consultation call with you that are serious business owners actually end up wanting to work with you. The higher that percentage, the less leads you need and the less marketing you have to do. right? So in the beginning, you're going to have to do a lot more marketing than you will as you get more experience, because as you get more experience, you have a better sales script, a better sales flow. People want to work at those higher price points, and it's easier. But in the beginning, let's say a good number for the average person who's just getting started would be 1 out of 5. Okay, that means 5 people get on the phone with you, 1 person buys. It's about a 20% close rate. Okay, now that's a solid close rate for someone. If you're not at that number, like you've had 5 consultation calls and no one's purchased from you, I would highly recommend maybe getting some help when it comes to like sales, or getting some sort of sales script, or maybe even like a mentor that can help you like learn sales, because you need it, right? Because if you can't, it's going to take you way more calls. So let's say, for example, that your goal is to try and get, let's say, $10,000 a month. Okay, let's say that this is just minimum pricing. So $5 per month is kind of your minimum. That means you're going to need about 20 clients to do that. $500 a month, about 20 clients. Yep. So for most people, if you're closing 1 out of 5, that means you're going to need, okay, so 20 times 5. That means you're going to need 100 people that are interested in your service in order to get those 20 clients. Okay. Now, if you don't have any marketing skills, that's going to be very, very, very hard to do. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying it's not worth it to try it, but it's going to be very hard to do. If instead you figured out how to get 3 out of 5 people to want to work, that's about 60% close rate. Which, for our students close to about, some of our better students close like 75 to like 85. I have one student that closed like 95. It's very odd, a very rare and very odd person who gets on the phone and doesn't sign up with them. But a really strong close rate for most people in this field would be like 60 to 70%, assuming that it's cold traffic. If it's your friends and family and you're not at least at like 90%, I don't know what to tell you. But like when you start going to strangers, like it does get a little bit different, right? It's going to be different. They're going to have more questions. They're not going to just blindly trust you. You can't just bully them around and be like, well, like maybe they're your younger sibling, right? And you're just used to telling them like what to do, right? And they just listen to you. But when you go to a stranger, you don't have that relationship. You can't just do like the micro family bullying kind of thing, right? So your close rate's going to drop. So if you're closing at least at 60%, which is like a very, very, very good rate for most people, then think about it. So 60% means 3 out of 5. What do we say? It took 20 people to go and do that. So we say 5. That means 3 divided by 20 divided by 3. 20 divided by 3. You're going to need about 6 to 7 clients. We'll say 7 clients. We'll just round it up. Okay? 7 divided by 0.6. That means if you're closing at 60%, you're only going to need 11.67 consultation calls in order to go reach your goal. You see that drastically change the kind of marketing and amount of marketing you need to do just by getting better at sales. And let's say better at sales. Again, it's not just like high-pressure sales tactics. It's just understanding how to convey the value that you actually bring to the client. When you get good at that, you don't need to do quite as much marketing, right? So then what you can focus on is just creating better quality relationships with business owners that actually meet your target like revenue criteria and your company structure as well as industry structure, and then you can just grow your business very, very easily. It doesn't take that much. That's why he could get to $8,000 a month in 60 days, because he didn't need 50, 60 clients, right? All it took was a few clients, and he just did a really good job, presented his value correctly, and they wanted to work with them. Okay? Now this video's getting a little bit long. I generally like to keep these videos to about 20 minutes, because if I start going over 20 minutes, then Facebook, or if you're watching on YouTube, I'm filming this on Facebook right now, it generally will show it to less people while it's live. So I'm going to keep it kind of compact, and I'm going to end it here. So if you want some help growing your business, like maybe you've been trying to grow your business, it's just not quite growing the way that you'd want it to, or what you hoped it would. But you know that if you had proper guidance, maybe a roadmap, maybe some scripts, maybe some templates, and you knew exactly what you needed to do in order to find success, if you felt that would be helpful, then I just invite you to go ahead and click the link inside the description, either above or below the video, to book a call with myself to see if I can help you inside of our training program, okay? It's not a good fit in every case, right? So everyone has a slightly different scenario they're in, right? But my job is to kind of see, like, hey, this is kind of our playbook. This is what I think it's going to do for you. This is the time frame with which I think it's going to work for you. And if we both feel it's a mutual fit, then I'm going to invite you to go and join our program. We can talk about the pricing, the length of time, like the term that the program lasts for. And then if you feel like it's the right fit, we can get started right then and there, okay? If it's not the right fit, again, I have to tell you that up front. Like it's I'm not trying to be like mean if I say it's not the right fit. It's just I want to only work with people who I know I can help, right? Because I want to make sure that our success rate stays very, very high. Because I really enjoy working with people who really like working with us, and so far I've been able to do that because I've been very selective with who I worked with, and only making sure I work with people who I can help. So if that's you, if you want to see if I can help you, go ahead and click the link inside the description. Book the call. I'll see you there. Talk to you soon. Take it easy. Talk to you later. Have a good one.